Hey all you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another TNI toy review. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends Deluxe comic book based War Machine figure from Hasbro. Now this is the first time that Hasbro's actually ever given us a comic book based War Machine in the Marvel Legends line. Toy Biz was the last one to do it, and I will be giving you a comparison of that Toy Biz figure with this one later on in the review. But this figure with all the accessories is a deluxe figure, so you've got the larger packaging, the figure is clearly displayed, you've got the Legend Series logo up at the top, the War Machine name down below. On the very top you've got the War Machine symbol. I love the artwork on the side of the packaging for War Machine. He's looking very menacing there. It's the same on both sides. And then on the back of the packaging we've got a look at the actual figure, the accessories, and a brief bio in multiple languages. Alright, so let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside the packaging along with all the other contents. Now most of the accessories that come with this figure are blast type effects, either for his boot jets or for his various weapons. So first of all you get these, and these are meant to plug into the bottom of the figure's feet to mimic him blasting off. Now you want to make sure when you plug these in that, they just have little pegs, but you want to make sure that you have the flat end that's basically covering the majority of the figure's foot. That's the best way to do it, and plug them in for both. So now it's made to look like he's actually blasting off, but then they also give you these smoke effect pieces so you can make it look like he's actually lifting off the ground. Now one thing I want to note, I would say these look better when you have these smoke tendrils kind of out to the side, but the figure will have a greater tendency to fall over unless you turn these so that these are actually facing forward, because the figure, it kind of has a tendency to fall forward. So if you want, the best way to keep the figure standing is to have these little tendrils again facing forward. Like I said, I think they look better if they're off to the side, but if you want the figure, if you want to stand your figure like on your shelf like this, you're going to want to have those tendrils facing forward. And here's another look at the figure, this time with the tendrils facing outward. Again, I do think it looks better. It looks like the smoke's kind of, lifting off the ground as he's blasting off. And at this very moment, he's actually standing pretty good. This is actually the longest I've been able to keep him standing with the tendrils facing outward like this. But if, you put him on the shelf, I think you're going to find that he falls off easier unless you turn those tendrils so they're facing forward, so they act more like kind of an actual foot. Okay, next up we have a couple different types of accessories that are made to fit into the figure's wrist cannon on his right arm. So you get this one that looks like, it's kind of a multi-shot effect piece. Then you get these two smaller ones, which are just single effect pieces that'll fit into the barrels. And then if you want to make it look like, he's shot the cannon and now it's smoking, you've got these little translucent clear pieces that you can plug into the barrels as well. So with the larger effect piece, what you want to do is, it's hard to see, but there's two little holes here that are basically shaped like the barrels of the gun. You want this longer piece kind of facing outward. I think that's better. I guess you could do it either way, but I think it's probably better if you have it like that. And then again, it looks like he's kind of rapid firing. That's really what it's meant to look. This is probably my least favorite effect piece. I just don't think it quite captures the look it's supposed to, but it's still kind of cool that they included that nevertheless. If you rather go with more of that individual shot look, they've given you the two smaller effect pieces, and these are just done with a soft rubber type material, translucent orange. And as you get closer to the tips, it gets more yellow. One is longer than the other, so they are not the exact same length. And sometimes, you have to kind of fiddle with them. They will kind of push each other to the side, because you've got these blast effect pieces that get wider here at the base. So because the barrels are so close together, but still for the most part you can make it look pretty good. And again, this is more for that individual shot effect piece, and you have just the little pegs, and they just plug into the holes of the barrel. And then finally, as I mentioned, you get the smoke effect pieces just done with the translucent plastic, again done with a soft rubber material. So you can plug those into the barrels so it looks like the barrels have been firing and they're hot, and now smoke's coming out of them, which I think is cool. Now these are very tiny, so the biggest thing about these is just it's going to be hard not not to lose them, and because they're translucent plastic, if you drop them down on the ground, they can be very hard to find. But again, I think it's cool that they added those. And of course, if you want to mix it up, you can have one barrel actually firing, and then you can have the second one smoking. So you can kind of mix and match the pieces however you want. And I will note that especially with the smoke effect pieces, because they are a soft rubber, sometimes it can be difficult to get them plugged in just because they kind of bend as you're trying to push them into the barrel. So you have to kind of work with it. But again, you can kind of mix and match or move them around and stuff however you want. And then finally you get the two blast effects for the two different shoulder cannons that he has. You've got the Gatling gun on the left shoulder and the rocket launcher on the right shoulder, and you get blast effects for each one. So the one for the Gatling gun, it's circle shaped, and it's done again with a translucent plastic. It's a little harder than the blast effects for the wrist cannon. It gets a little rubbery up here at the tip, but for the most part it is a harder plastic, and it's a darker red towards the back, and then it gets more yellow as you get to the tip. And what you want to do with that one is you just plug it into the shoulder, or plug it into the Gatling gun there. Again, it's the hole is shaped like the barrel, and it does fit nice and tight, so it looks like he's blasting off bullets from that Gatling gun. Then the second one, which is probably my favorite blast effect piece, are these firing rockets. So you've got the gray translucent yellowish plastic at the back here, and then it gets more yellow, and then you've got the three rockets. And again, these are done with these streams are done with a soft rubber type material, but the rockets themselves are actually removable, so you can take them off, which I think is pretty cool. Though again, they are small, so you want to make sure that you don't drop them or lose them. But I like how they have made those rockets actually removable. And then the back here, it's shaped like the rocket launcher. So you can do it so, you can either do it this way, so the rockets are kind of coming out this way, or you can turn it the other way. It doesn't really matter. But because of the way the rockets are posed, it does make a little bit difference for display purposes. I think it probably looks better if you have it turned this way, just the way the rockets are shaped. But either way, it works. And again, I think it's cool that they did that with the actual rockets that are removable. And then here's a look at the figure with the rocket launcher and the Gatling gun effects, plus the multiple effect pieces that plug into the wrist cannon. So it looks like he's really going to town and causing some mass destruction. And then finally, the figure comes with two different head sculpts. So the first head sculpt is the helmeted head sculpt that's attached to the figure when you first take it out of the packaging. And I think they've done a great job with this one. I like the little laser scope that is on the side there with the red. The helmet, most of the helmet is done with a very dark gray, which matches the rest of the figure. And then you've got the metallic silver on the faceplate, which looks nice. You've got the sculpting detail with the ridges on the top of the helmet. So, very true to how War Machine should look. And then the second head sculpt is an unhelmeted head sculpt, so our first Jim Rhodes comic book based head sculpt that we're getting in the line. Even back with the Toy Biz one, you only had the removable faceplate, and then the actual face that they used was one of the designers, David Vonner. So it really didn't, it was kind of a cool tribute to him, but it really didn't look comic book based. But with this one, this very much looks like how Rhodey does and looks in the comic books these days. I just read the new issues of Force Works that he's appearing in. I'm not entirely sure how he's alive again, because I remember they killed him off fairly recently, but he's appearing along with U.S. Agent and Quake and Mockingbird in Force Works. So looks very true to how he appears, again in the comics with the goatee, good skin tone, the eyes are painted nicely. He's got the flat top type hairstyle, the little slits in the hair on the side, so just overall nice detailing. And again, this is actually our first comic book based Jim Rhodes head sculpt that we're getting in the line. Okay, now for the figure itself, I think they've done a great job here. So paint applications are pretty basic. You just got this dark gray and then the metallic silver, which I do think comes off looking pretty metal-like throughout the figure. But there's no wash effect, there's no scratches or battle damage or anything. There's no other markings on the armor, just the solid dark gray and the metallic silvers throughout. But I think it looks pretty good, looks pretty true to how he appears in the comics. The gray on the cannons and the helmet match the rest of the body, which is good. No real major paint blemishes or anything. So overall, I would say pretty solid with the paint applications. And then for the sculpting detail, you've got the arc reactor on the front. You've got some nice sculpting detail with just the ridges and stuff on the front of the figure there. You've got the line work sculpted on the hands, which is very in keeping with how it looks in the comics. He has that wrist cannon, which is not removable on the figure. And then he has the shoulder cannons. Now, one thing I want to note with the shoulder cannons, so the shoulder cannons attach to these arms that stick out the back of the figure with these ball joints, and these arms just go up and down on the figure. But there is no way to hide those arms. So from the back, you're going to see them sticking out. Now, you can push them down so you don't see them from the front. And if you want to remove the cannons, then that's what you would need to do. So if you want to make it look like he doesn't actually have his shoulder cannons, out, but you're still going to see those arms stick out on the back of the figure. Now, the good thing about these, though, is even though you can't really hide those arms, it does keep the cannons nicely secured to the figure. With like a lot of the MCU war machines that they've done, those shoulder cannons tend to fall off really easy. So with this, you don't have to worry about that. They will stay secure to the figure. So I think most people are probably going to display the figure with the shoulder cannons out, and hence when you have the cannons attached, those arms are not a big deal. But there is no way to hide those actual arms. Now, as far as articulation on the cannons, again, they're just attached with those ball joints, so you can rotate them, but you don't really get any elevation with the ball joints. If you want the cannons to point up in the air, you want to just push the arms back a bit and then do them forward if you want to have them firing straight ahead. But the cannons don't really get any elevation on those ball joints. If you try and do them up on the ball joints, they're going to just pop off. But you do get the rotation, so you can have the cannons off to the side or however you want. Now, War Machine stands, if you count to the top of his head, just under 6 3/4 inches tall. Now, for comparison, here's a look at that 80th anniversary Iron Man figure, the Alex Ross Iron Man figure. And these two, the War Machine, I would say, is a hair taller, but overall, I would say they scale with one another pretty good. Now, Jim Rhodes actually wore this particular version of the Iron Man armor for a while. When Tony Stark stepped down due to alcohol problems, Rhodes took over, and it was actually this version of the armor he was wearing. And if you wanted to put the Jim Rhodes head sculpt on this figure, it does fit. Now, granted, Rhodes didn't have like the goatee back when he was wearing this particular armor, so it's not true to the comics. But again, if you just wanted to have, make it seem like Rhodes was wearing this armor, you can actually put this head sculpt on it. Vice versa with the Tony Stark head that comes with that Iron Man figure. When Stark first made the War Machine armor, he actually had made it for himself, and then he ended up giving it to Rhodes. But if you wanted to have the Tony Stark head on the War Machine figure, it again also fits. So here's a comparison of the U.S. Agent figure that Hasbro's done, which definitely is in need of an update. But overall, I think these two look pretty good. I like having U.S. Agent and War Machine together. The anti-Iron Man and anti-Captain America, they've served together multiple times on both Force Works and on West Coast Avengers. And now we just need also, besides an updated U.S. Agent, we also need a Thunderstrike, so we can have kind of the anti-Thor to go along with these two. That was kind of their stick back in the 90s. They were kind of carbon copies of those mainstream characters. And then finally, here's a comparison with the main War Machine that Toy Biz did back in the day. Now, things to note, the Toy Biz one also had some nice blast effects that you could attach to the shoulder cannons, and then he had some like repulsor effects that you could plug into his hands. He has the wrist cannons, but they did not have the blast effects that actually attached into the wrist cannons or the smoke effects. But you did have some pretty cool. You had the rocket firing blast effects like you do with this new figure. I don't have those handy to show you, but that figure, the Toy Biz one, did come with those. He had a rocket launcher, or he has a rocket launcher, but I don't have it attached to the figure as well. So very similar between the design of these two figures. The other differences is you don't get an actual full-on unhelmeted head sculpt. You could just pull off the faceplate, and then, like I said, this face is actually actually based on toy designer David Vonner, not actually based on the comic books. Still was pretty cool. You know, nice tribute to him and everything. But I do kind of really like the newer head sculpt that they included with this figure. Okay, so now for articulation. So I showed you the articulation on the shoulder cannons, but for the figure itself, you actually get some really nice head movement with this one. He can look back about this much. The actual neck joint moves up and down, so you get extra movement, and you get a lot of nice head pivot there. So you have the neck piece that comes off. Let me just pop the head off here so you can see it. You have the neck piece that comes up, but then you have this actual ball joint that sticks out. So you get that movement there, and then you actually get the movement on the ball as well. So like I said, you definitely get some good head pivot, and he can look down pretty good. It maybe could look up a little bit more for flight poses would be nice, but still for the most part I think they've done a pretty good job with that. Now with the arms, you do have the shoulder pads. Those are separate pieces done with a rubber type plastic, but you can still get the arm out pretty good, and then they rotate, so you can rotate the arm all the way around. The shoulder cannons can get in the way a little bit, but you do get that full rotation. You get the bicep swivel, you get the double hinged elbow, so good bending there at the elbow. You get the rotation with the hands, you get the hinges on the hands, so up and down movement. You get the midsection ab crunch, so he can look back, so that gives you more movement for the flight poses, which is nice. And then he can crunch forward and look down pretty good there. You get a waist swivel with this one. And then for the legs, he can do the splits about that much. You can get the leg forward pretty good, and then you can do the leg out and back. You do get a thigh swivel. You got a double jointed knee, so good bending there at the knee. And then with the feet, you have hinges, so up and down movement. And you do get ankle pivot, which is nice, and 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I think this is a really nice figure. I'm really happy with it. Probably the only real downside is because it's a deluxe figure, it does cost a little bit more. And you might even argue, you know, it's very close to the same type of accessories we saw back in the day with the Toy Biz one. So why does it need to be a deluxe figure? But, you know, that was definitely a different time. Things are more expensive these days. So I'm not really going to quibble over that. But for the figure itself, I'd just say, you know, it is a very nice figure. If you're a fan of War Machine, it's been long overdue for us to get a modern comic book based War Machine. And I think Hasbro's done a really good job here. So if you're a fan of War Machine, I think you're going to want to check this one out. It is available now. It's hitting shelves now. As always, leave a comment. Let me know what you think down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. And until next time, guys, stay safe out there, and I'll catch you later.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News Message Boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.